The boys were like a step ladder, each one a bit taller than just the younger. David, at 13, loved to read, was ecstatic about reptiles, and kept getting annoyed when his brother Daniel bothered him. Daniel, creeping up to 11 and a half years old and loving soccer, said he had the worst. Both David and Joshua bothered him, and Joshua, a strong 8, knew it wasn't fair being the youngest, especially when he was so good at sports and school and making friends. Just as David spoke, something caught the cousins' eyes, and they all looked down. They screamed. Right at their feet, a dozen ugly scorpions circled the cousins and were about to trap them right on the spot. Daniel, thinking super fast, circled his cousins and lifted everyone high into the air so they could figure out what to do about the scorpions. They decided that David would use his superpower, and he yelped as he focused all his energy and attention to blink to stop the threatening scorpions, morphing each one into jelly beans and gummy bears. His morphing had worked so well that M&Ms showed up as well, which excited all the boys as they began picking up handfuls of candy.
There are millions and millions of candies with sweets as far as the eye can see and all the way up to their knees. In fact, almost to Ryan's shoulders. The kids' eyes got wider with delight as they began to laugh and high-five each other. Can you even imagine being knee-deep in your favorite candy? Not only knee-deep, but as far as you can see. Even if the cousins had been thinking about getting a stomachache from eating so much candy, that was far from their real problem. They had been beaten at their own game. Although they changed their problem into treats, their treats had now become the biggest hurdle of all. So much candy was keeping them from reaching the pyramid. Every time they would eat some candy or push them out of their way, the candy would come back. Sometimes, twice as much showed up. You could see the look of surprise and dismay on their faces as they realized this was serious business. Not only might they not reach their destination, the tons and tons of candy were threatening to trap them in place. They began to work harder than ever. Each boy began to push and push and push the candy using their feet and their hands. They tried pulling handfuls of sticky green and red and purple jelly beans out of their way, and they tried putting mounds of the stuff behind them. As they pushed and pulled, they continued to stuff fistfuls into their mouth until even their favorite colored gummy bear tasted horrible. "This is weird," mumbled Casey, with a mouthful of jelly beans, M&Ms, and gummy bears. "I like this stuff much better when my mouth and my tummy are not so full. Yucky." The mummy was wrapped in gold silk stripes, a beautiful fabric that looked otherworldly and very expensive at the same time. She moved like mercury, liquid silver, like water, all in one fluid motion, almost as if she exchanged the air from one place to another. When she spoke with Grandma, it was without any sound or voice. It was almost like her thoughts went straight from her head to Grandma's brain. But there was something a little peculiar. When Grandma looked closer, she saw the mummy was missing a left thumb, her right pinky, and a left toe. How completely strange. I wonder what happened to her, thought Grandma. The way the mummy's fabric was tightly bound to her whole body, with no space where her fingers and toe could be used to make Grandma think that she had lost these digits after becoming a mummy? Even stranger.
The boys landed hard on something scaly, like a giant scaly mountain. Before they had time to figure out what it was or where they were, the mountain began to move. Now a funny thing happened. The boys weren't afraid of the dinosaur. Their bodies relaxed and they realized they all had this strong feeling that the dinosaur was on their side. Weird. In fact, there was something very familiar and comforting about the dinosaur.
The mummy was concentrating over a small pool of water. water that looked like water and vapors and ice and mirrors. She was talking into the pool and peering into its depths. Grandma moved a little closer to the curve of the wall so she could get a better view of the mummy in the pool. Grandma saw that the water's reflection was a compass, showing the mummy the location of some objects. What is she looking at? Oh my goodness. Grandma saw a thumb, finger, and toe, and realized that the mummy was looking for her own missing toe and fingers. Grandma watched in fear and curiosity. One of the reflections became clearer and clearer. It was a left thumb with a multi-jeweled ring. The mummy looked closer and closer at the thumb, and as she peered deeper into the water, the compass and the reflection of the thumb began to line up.
They were all so busy talking, asking questions, and being so happy to see each other that nobody saw that Ryan was being pulled again. Even with all the metal on the magnet, it still had enough power to reach the ring in Ryan's pocket. His pocket was stretched way out, the heels of his feet dug into the ground of the cave, and his hands leaned far forward as the magnet's power pulled and pulled. As he cupped his birthstone, in both of his hands, he yelled, "Help! Help, you guys! I can't hold it on anymore." The symbol of a single eye carved into his birthstone seemed to be on fire.
Joshua got ready to distract her by running by her as fast as ever.
Daniel crouched ready to jump onto her shoulders.
Casey turned into an 8-legged octopus, the better to keep her from using her arms or legs.
Ryan tried to control the mummy's mind and reminded her they were family.
David morphed the leftover jelly beans into slippery mush to glue her to the spot and keep her from running away.
Then they pounced on her. The gooey mess from the jelly beans covered her. They got into her mind. They held her tightly and Daniel sat on their shoulders. They used every power available to them. The Millers walked toward the symbol, and it moved as if a breeze were blowing it gently away from them. They followed the symbol to the mummy's work room deep inside of the cave and saw the desk Ryan had described. They were afraid the mummy would reappear any moment and do something mean or dangerous to them. So they looked around the room very quickly. The room was dark and colder than the rest of the cave, and it was jam-packed with lists, papers, birthstone symbols, and a few spiders and bats. In the middle of the room was a large stone pedestal with a shiny metallic orb on the top. The top of the orb was carved out in the shape of a dragon, and it was filled with water that was more alive than anything else in the room. "I wonder if the dragon is the mummy's special symbol," said Ryan. "Look, guys, it's floating above the reflecting pool." Everyone ran at once to look into the pool. The vapor of the symbol sunk into the water, and a clear outline of the mummy showed up. The Millers saw her reach out and hook the symbol onto her cape. And as they watched, with their mouths and eyes opened very wide, the mummy began to fade away, and everyone heard the same words inside of their heads. "I'll be back.
I'll be back. I'll be back. I'll be back. I'll be back.